The volcano in Ethiopia has erupted for the first time in almost 12,000 years, surprising experts who had believed it to be extinct. Local officials say there have been no casualties, but thick ash has covered nearby villages and forced the cancellations of flights in the area. Dr. Heather Handley is a volcanologist at the museum's Victoria Research Institute, and she joins me now. Good to have you with us this evening. Now, this Hayli Gubbi volcano, is it common for a volcano that's been dormant or extinct for 12,000 years to erupt again?
Good evening. There are situations around the world where volcanoes can come back to life after thousands of years of inactivity. And some volcanoes actually operate on much longer timescales. So if you think about Yellowstone in the US, the last eruption there was 70,000 years ago. So, but we do see signs at Yellowstone in that system underneath that there is still molten rock and there is potential for an eruption in future. So we have to remember that volcanoes operate on much longer timescales than what we do and what our history does. And then you add to that some of these volcanoes are not particularly well studied. So we don't have that detailed record of how frequently it erupted in the past and how frequently there might be different styles of volcanic activity that could be more explosive, like what happened at the volcano there.
Yeah, so in the case of this particular volcano, can you explain the geology behind this? What are the possible scenarios that got this volcano to, I suppose, wake up again?
So even though the volcano has been dormant for a very long time, it sits within a very active volcanic region. So the erupted range, which this is part of, it's one volcano out of six in a 150-kilometer long kind of active axis. And so what we have in Ethiopia is a very active tectonic setting where you've got these big rigid plates of the earth pulling apart from each other. And the volcano that erupted sits right within that. So a nearby, I think the current theory that I've heard and that I've read about that's been published by research groups at the moment is that they believe that activity at a very active volcano around 35 kilometers away that started to show signs of, we got injection underground of new molten rock from that volcano that traveled south and southeast towards the volcanic eruption center that happened recently. And so what they believe is that the underground, the magma that we see often in cases like Hawaii or maybe in Iceland, you get this magma movement underground towards then this volcanic center that's not erupted for a very long time. And that might be responsible for some of the activity in this long dormant volcano.
Yeah, so in that vein, can that magma move across and then cause the other volcanoes in that belt you've just described erupt?
So what they think for this one is that the magma, the molten rock from erupted moves southwards. They've tracked it. It moved at least 36 kilometers. And so it came, the eruptions at that point that happened in July this year were only about 2 kilometers away from this volcanic center. And so what it's believed is then that this may have been an injection of magma that moved from that volcano to the other volcano. And that's might be of kind of given this new molten rock that fueled this volcanic eruption. But if I can just say one thing that's very unexpected, though, is to have this explosive volcanic eruption. So these types of volcanoes, from the type of volcano and the type of molten rock it is, they usually produce these oozing lava flows that can flow, quite gently away from the volcanic crater. So to have this kind of very explosive ash-producing eruption that put ash, 10 to 14 kilometers into the atmosphere, that's the part that's very unexpected and very unusual.
So it's a bit of a mystery then. So what do scientists like yourself, what can you learn from this unusual activity?
I think there are a lot of lessons that we can learn. It's obviously that we need to keep an eye on a lot of volcanoes, the ones that aren't particularly active on very frequent basis, and that we need to do more research to be able to document those histories and really understand the behavior of a volcano. And I think it's also a reminder that even for Australia, you could be impacted, like the ash cloud moved over eastwards over India, caused flight disruption in India, it moved across to China. It's also a reminder that even in Australia, we could be subject to impact like we were with some of the previous volcanic eruptions, to volcanic ash movements. And it also reminds us that, well, for me in Australia, we have an active region that was last erupted 5,000 years ago. And that whole area has been active for over 4.5 million years. So it's also a reminder to me that we need to keep an eye on our volcanoes closer to home that could also maybe erupt one day in future.
Yes, because geologically, 4,000 years is just a blink of an eye, isn't it?
Yeah, it's completely a blink of an eye, geologically speaking.
Yes. And just finally, now that the Hayli Gubbi volcano erupted in Ethiopia, can this volcano now be classified as active after being dormant or extinct, as some have described it?
From a volcanological point of view, yes, it will be classified as active now. So how we generally classify, and it is a bit arbitrary, is that if a volcano has had an eruption in the last, it's about 11,000 years, and we think there might be another eruption in future, then we classify it as active. And clearly now this one it's had an eruption as of this week, so it's definitely on the active list now.
Okay, Dr. Heather Handley, really fascinating to chat with you about the various science and geological aspects of volcanoes. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.